Hey everyone, Chris Gogolin here with episode number 8 of my weekly GEMP game review series. Today we're going to look at a couple of games submitted to us from, the first one here comes from Silverglen. That's Justin Branch, a UK player who we've reviewed one or two games of his before. In this particular first game here, he is playing the dreaded I Want That Map deck that seems to be, a hot topic of discussion on the forums right now. I'll be playing against Charlie Arlinson, or Carlinson, as some people have resorted to calling him now that they've seen his screen name. Charlie's got a TIG deck, 12 card start. So, for those of you who aren't as familiar with I Want That Map, we'll run through the setup of it real quick. So, you start your objective, which gives you an episode 7 location and the village. So, you start the village, which is just a 2-1. You get the Starkiller base, usually. Some people, there are other locations you could choose to start, but typically they start the Starkiller base because it can't be limited by things like Watch Your Step, and then you can download a battleground site. There are several Starkiller sites. Usually the decks will pull the Forest and maybe the other 2-1 site just to get some reliable activation going. They use the new starting interrupt. Right here, you know what I've come for. Deploys the landing site, bow to the first order, and one effect. People have been discussing the different versions of I Want That Map and what to use for that extra effect. The site has the wonderful text of when you get a first order character there, you can get any Jakku battleground. Typically they just throw a stormtrooper down or something and then use it to get the system, and then they can like match for Hux and the finalizer or something like that with Alert My Star Destroyer, which is one of the 3 starting card effects that you see most often. You reveal Hux or PV or somebody like that, or the finalizer, which you can take into hand with bow, get the matching pilot in reverse for about 9 force, and then you can always like shuttle your guy up or whatever. And then typically the other thing that the starting interrupt lets you do is it goes into your hand. Once it's back in your hand, you get this wonderful thing here. It says deploy a first order shuttle at -2 from hand or reserve deck and reshuffle. So you pull the shuttle pulls Kylo. This other card here pulls Kylo's lightsaber once per game. So for 4 force, unless you activate some piece of the combination, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get Kylo lightsaber shuttle out turn 1 to this location. You're going to get a used pile search. Kylo's got good power there. The shuttle adds destiny to power when it's with Kylo, or he adds a destiny when he's with the shuttle. And then he's got a lightsaber. So it's pretty daunting setup. It's threatening a drain of 2 very fast. The other effect that it starts, I will finish what you started. In addition to getting the lightsaber, once per turn, stack an interrupt from hand to cancel a just drawn weapon destiny at Kylo's site. So you can't even hit Kylo. He's immune to less than 4. The shuttle forfeits for 5. So even if you do draw a 5 to beat 4 or 5 to crack his immunity, the shuttle's going to cover it. So it's very difficult to deal with attacking and Kylo, very early on, and then they get, the shuttle with the pilot out, or the ship with the pilot out. The ship's immune to less than 5, adds 1 to the drains at Jakku. PV makes it immune to less than 8 or 10 if there's a resistance guy there. So that sets up a pretty solid drain 2 at the system, drain 2 at the site, get around battle plan, and then you still have the rest of your deck to go confront your opponent with. It's a very difficult setup, very fast to deal with from the light side player's perspective. And there are several versions, as I said. One starts Alert My Star Destroyer, which makes it a little more reliable and guaranteed that you're going to get the ship with the right pilot on it out to Jakku early. The other versions I've seen, one starts Endor Shield, so you get Ozzel, Thrawn out pretty quick. Chiranu to add to the drain. Ozzel can go in the shuttle, and the shuttle can take off to the system turn 1, so you can get around battle plan right from the beginning, and then you're immediately threatening, a big force loss, depending on what type of deck your opponent's playing. You can feel pretty safe about that. We're going to see Justin here, do his basic setup. He pulls the Starkiller Forest, one of the 2-0 sites, or 2-1 sites I mentioned. There goes the shuttle from reserve deck with the interrupt. Use the shuttle to pull Kylo. Costs 5 force total. Kylo gets you a used pile search. In this particular case, the lightsaber was in the used pile, so he'll use that for one of his, for his search to get it out now. So Kylo's not quite as vulnerable. But there were some other good cards in there that he could have pulled. Thrawn was in there. There was a second copy of the shuttle. Sometimes the decks will run 2 copies of the shuttle to make sure you don't activate one first turn and screw yourself. This move right here, though, this was slightly puzzles me. He deploys, well, I guess deploys the trooper there for free because he deploys the site wherever you want to go. Kylo gets out. Now he's got a guy. The trooper makes him forfeit defense value -1 rather. So now it makes it even easier for Kylo to hit people. And then he'll imp command and get PV. So now he's got PV and the finalizer in his hand, and he can reveal the finalizer to match for Hux, and then put PV on it too. PV deploys -1 aboard the finalizer. Hux deploys -2 aboard the finalizer, and if you match and reveal them with alert, they're both -1. So for 8 force, you get finalizer, Hux to the system, and then you can throw PV down for 2 more. Undercover spies are a pretty good way of slowing down this damage and dealing with some of the stuff that that map does. Map does not have a lot of the typical ways to get rid of undercover spies. They don't really play any vehicles yet, so there's no tramples. You can't play Emperor or Dooku, so you can't force lightning anybody. So they might have a character that can break cover like a Probot, or typically it's just a copy of Sniper. There's a couple of guys with weapons. You've got Kylo and the lightsaber, and then you've got this FN9's guy who just got deployed. Get Jakku, take a quick peek in the reserve deck, see what's there, if you can match for anybody. The other cool thing, too, is when you match for Hux and you spend the 8 or 9 force to deploy the ship, to the Jakku site. You can get a use pile search from Bow to the First Order. That's the other thing that the Endor Shield version does when it gets Ozzel right away, and if you can go to the site, get the system, and then kind of do everything all in one turn for only about 7 force, you can take off right away and flip because you'll have 2 First Order guys at 2 battlegrounds. So we didn't see Charlie reveal an agent at the beginning, so I'm assuming his agent is Luke. It doesn't really give us game text. I'll just scroll back up real fast. Let's see if it'll show me in the chat. He revealed Leia as a Resistance agent. Okay, that's what he did. One of the other things on the 7th, there's a couple things that happen on the 7 side of the objective. Number 1, you have to use or lose 1 when you're battling a First Order leader to draw a battle destiny. Number 2 is unless BB-8 is on the table, your light side's force retrieval is canceled. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to see Qui-Gon come down to battle here, but let's pause this for a second. So Kylo can cancel a weapon destiny by stacking an interrupt from hand with 11 cards in hand. This is kind of a bold play. There's a pretty good shot he's got at least some type of interrupt. And then this dude over here, only when he's with Stormtrooper, he can cancel an automated weapon. So there is no second Stormtrooper there because that guy took off on the shuttle. So therefore, don't have to worry about that. So you've got 1 weapon destiny being canceled. Spectre, the Supreme Leader, is out, so you won't lose force there. Clash of Sabers is a card that this deck is a bit vulnerable to. Clash has been pretty popular in a lot of light side decks, kind of as an answer to map, because they don't have really the room for Crush the Rebellion as one of their starting effects to help cancel Clash. So here we're going to see a little bit of a beatdown and having the advantage of knowing what's going on in Justin's hand here. This is going to hurt. I guess is what he's really hoping for is a low Battle Destiny, because he does not have a Gick or anything. So he's going to definitely be peeling some cards here. The Trooper's going to take a shot at Jin just to at least get something off the board. But the Clash was a big move. This one's just Destiny greater than defense value, so that should hit. Not forfeit 0 though, but still just hit somebody. And that's a high Battle Destiny. That's going to be 15. That's going to be peeling 9. I have seen a few people toying with the idea instead of like alert or anything like that. There's now some of them are talking about starting the battle damage effect. That helps you mitigate the damage there. If an opponent initiated a battle, you can lose the effect to satisfy all battle damage. Basically like a built-in Gick. Because the deck is a little vulnerable to these early turn beatdowns with things like Clash. You open hand an EPP and a Clash, and you can definitely do some damage there. Typically, you'll see them Clash Kylo and battle just a lone shuttle, which is power 0. It doesn't get a Battle Destiny. In this particular case, it was a Trooper. But that is something that people have been using as a strategy against map now for a little while. And we'll be curious to see how map adapts to that. There's also a lot of talk about some possible changes that people want to make to see changes to Hux, changes to strategic reserves, those kinds of things going on right now. Whether I don't know if anything's going to come of any of them. They might just decide to ride it out a little bit longer, just give the community a little more time to see how they adapt to map and go from there. Kylo is locked down there. He can't move or battle until the end of the next light side turn, so can't battle him. He can't go anywhere. Can get sniped though, so that's certainly a concern. There's Krennic, who's an Imperial. He'll capture Luke. He's going to start losing 2 force a turn for that. I think we're going to back up. Yep. He's going to back up. And he's going to deploy Hux Finalizer instead. And get a used pile search. Then he'll use Hux and get Strategic Reserve. Strategic Reserves is a card that some people have some complaints with, and justifiably so. Unlike other stackable effects like this that allow you to stack a card to cancel a force drain, they all require non-uniques to work. When this card was created, there was only the one non-unique, and there were very few other first order characters, so this card was written as a first order Stormtrooper, which does apply to the unique troopers like Phasma, like FN9s, like FN 2003. So you can use the unique guys to cancel drains, and that's one of the things that people are discussing and they'd like to see possibly changed. I'd be in favor of that. I think that makes sense. All the other decks have to play, non-unique aliens or, for bargaining table, or, non-unique starfighters for, Rebel Fleet or the dark side of equivalents. So that would be something that I would like to see strategic reserves get changed for. The other thought process, and that people are also saying they'd like to see, is General Hux, who takes strategic reserves into hand once per game, or a trooper. They'd like to see him not pull strategic reserves, so it makes getting this card out to be able to cancel drains a little bit harder. Maybe you have to use a use pile search for it. Maybe you have to play an effect polar or two and use that. But while we got a game going on here, Luke is safely over here doing his thing. Still can't retrieve because of the 7 side for being alone. But he's not, not captured. He can drain for 2 there. And now that Kylo's going to be unclashed, light side has pretty much stacked this site with Anakin, Rey, and Solo. Usually a good way to deal with map if you're fighting, worried about fighting on the ground, is just to stack a site up. Pile a bunch of guys up there and go from there. He's going to use Ellis to move Kylo to Luke. Ellis is a key card you will see a lot of map decks play. Typically, they have to go down with multiple guys, Kylo, a couple of troopers, Phasma, that kind of stuff. And then once that pile of guys is on the table, they're not as big of a beatdown threat. You don't really have to worry about it as much. But then Ellis comes into play, and you can use Ellis to shuffle, bring the party to wherever they go. So he'll pile up over here, kind of go after Luke, take Luke out. He'll use this FN guy to keep Luke from swinging, so he minimizes his own damage. If he had a trooper assault, that would really add a lot of power and keep most of his guys alive. And then later in the game, you might see these guys go back over to Jakku and try and do a battle here. Oh, he had the trooper assault stacked on. I will finish what you started. That's one of the other things the objective does. We'll pause there for a second. If Kylo on table, during your turn, you can stack an interrupt from your lost pile on I will finish what you started. Interrupt stack there, make Kylo power +1 for each card there. Once per turn, you can play an interrupt stack there as if from hand and then place it out of play. It's kind of a similar mechanic to what Watch Your Step does for light side, how they can play interrupts from their lost pile. This one here requires, Kylo to be on the table. You stack it and then you play it off of the effect. So it kind of telegraphs a little bit to your opponent, like, hey, here are the cards I could play from my lost pile by making them get stacked here. But for each card stacked here, Kylo is power +1. So they stack a couple of key cards there. You'll see people do this with some of the good one-time use lost interrupts as well. Things like close call, things like limited resources, or cards that get canceled, things like barrier. But really piling it on Luke here with the trooper assault. He's up to power 21, so he's up by 15 before you even draw Destiny. Hux's other benefit is he makes all his first order characters Destiny +1. Charlie's going to have to use a force here because he's battling a first order leader in order for him to draw his battle Destiny. He gets a 3. 24 to 9. That's a difference of 15. Kylo will cause a 2 force loss. So here's kind of the counter beatdown. Darkseid took a little bit of a beating early. Peeled 9 cards, I think it was. Now they're kind of rebounding. And they're going to get Luke an 8. Or Hujix. Luke's going to get Resilience first. That's another card that's been a bit more popular in light side decks lately is Jedi's Resilience. Jedi's Resilience and Mentalian Savrip have been being come back. I mean, Resilience has always kind of been a card in play because of the 6, but now you're starting to see Savrip pop up a little more as well. And you've seen dark side decks move back more toward the cold feet to counter that a little bit to keep guys from coming back out of the lost pile. So right now you'd look at the board and you think, okay, well, dark side's draining, 2 and 2, light side's draining for 2. It's kind of an even little trade-off here. They can take their time and, light side's ahead on cards because they didn't take the big beat down. They've got 31 left face down. Dark side's only got 14. I got a little bit bigger hand. But, you would think light side would kind of be ahead at this point in the game. But Strategic Reserves is going to nullify all that out, because while dark side is going to continue to do damage, light side is not. Because even if they paid 3 with battle orders out, so even if they paid 3 to do this drain here, it's just going to get canceled by stacking a trooper. Oh, interesting. We see Charlie tunnel vision from his lost pile using solo. He pulls a neighbor and leads into hand, and he neighbored. Looks like he's moving 2 guys. He's moving Anakin and Qui-Gon over to one of the Star Killer sites. So he's going to spread out. He's going to get a second drain here. It's a good way to deal with the Strategic Reserves issue, because now if he pays the drain and it gets canceled, then he can pay to drain elsewhere here and get canceled. Dark side, I've seen it pop up in some lists. It's not like in the standard lists, but dark side can run Tarkin's orders. So when they drain over here at the Star Killer site, you cancel that one with Strategic Reserves. And when they drain at your Jakku site, if they happen to take that from you, you Tarkin's orders that one to cancel it. And then they just spent 6 force and did nothing. But Darkside's going to creep back into this game slowly but surely for a turn or two. So they're going to get a couple of drains through. Did he not drain in the second? Oh, he's playing a second Ellis. And he drew a 7 for it. Ew. He's going to spend the 7. And he's moving just a lone First Order trooper to the Jedi Council chamber, and he gets hit with quite a mercenary. This was a card I put in my deck for the Endor Grand Prix last week. Because of the prevalence of Ellis in map, and even in a few other decks you've seen it a little bit, things like Hunt Down or even Scum use Ellis to move around. And I figured, not a commonly played light side card, might catch some people off guard. So I stuck quite a mercenary in. Quite a mercenary basically makes all the characters who just move with Ellis lost. Pull that up for you. Use 2 force, Ellis, and all the characters transported are lost. So it makes it a lost interrupt. And then kills everybody who just moved. So he'll go ahead and get the second drain in here. I guess he was going to try and spread out and get another drain here of 3. Would have been a very bold move, especially again without a Gick in his hand. His opponent's got 8 cards in hand. So it's kind of been what would have been a very bold move to do there. He's going to pass the turn because again he doesn't have too much force left after paying all of it to move. Cost him 7. Now he's going to pay to drain, cancel, pay to drain, get projective telepathy to make him spend 2 more force. And he finally gets a drain of 2 through. So basically he had to pay 8 force to do a drain of 2 because one of them got canceled. And this is kind of what map does. It gets into this mid-game point here, and then it kind of, just pewters out a little bit. It's kind of used its tricks. It's got its fast setup, and it kind of just hopes that it can lean on people a little bit. And if you can, hang tight with them, if you can disrupt them a little bit, kind of slow them down along the way, you can definitely, accomplish some things. Some light side decks have the ability to alter Strategic Reserves. You do that during your control phase before you drain, cancel this. It'll go used with Oppressive Enforcement, and then they got to spend time either drawing back into it, or if they use the use pile search, then they take Hux and pull it, or if they still have a guy left like Phasma that they can deploy, or something like Force Push, they can get it back, but it takes a little while. But right now we see light side's got themselves bunkered down at 2 sites pretty well. Leia's out now. She's the agent. That flips us back to the 0 side. So they've got they're going to pay 6. They're going to drain for 4. One of them will at least get canceled 1 or 2 more times because there's 1 or 2 more troopers floating around in this deck. And Darkside's going to get a drain of 2, and it was 2 and 2. Now it's going to be 2-1, and he's going to move Kylo over here, seeing that there's enough light side characters already deployed. There's not too many guys left that I'd be too worried about Kylo or about these guys here, possibly, dying. Obi's still around. And as we just saw, there's an Obi in the reserve deck there. Might be an Obi in his hand. He's only got 4 cards, though, so can't be too much floating around there. But if you could clear this site here, that would be huge. Because then battle order would no longer be satisfied, and he could play simple tricks to negate the drain here. So it's a bold move. Move in Kylo over like that. Some good destiny in there, though. Well, a bunch of red cards. But running pretty low on life force, so there's not a whole lot that Darkside can really pay to deploy at this point. They've only got 8 cards down. But we're going to see him start throwing away the more expensive stuff. Doesn't need the ships at this point. Very unlikely that TIG has got much to deal with in space. Sometimes you'll see just like a couple Han Chewie Falcons, or maybe like a Profundity. So we're going to get Luke and Lando. That'll be 2 Battle Destiny. We're back on the 0 side, so we can't play any stacked interrupts. So you can't do barrier or anything like that. No trooper assault, nothing. So it's probably going to be a full clear. He smoke screens a 6, and then he's going to top deck a 5, which is 11, which is going to get everybody because they've got exactly 11 forfeit. That'll also probably result, let's just face it. Lightside's going to win this battle and get a card stacked as well. 5's okay. That'll probably get Lando. But this is kind of what I was saying, that it was a bold move to move over like that. Kind of left yourself exposed a little bit. Trying to get an additional drain. I might have just, kept Kylo here with these guys. And just, when you had the Gick in your hand, move like the trooper over or something. Just to do a drain of 2, because this isn't -1 or anything. So, force him to put Luke and Lando down here, or and battle, or just Luke, or whoever, and then he's got to move back to you, move back to your guy with the weapon. That kind of puts you in a little bit more of an advantageous spot. He'll pull simple tricks now, so now he's got to pay to do this drain here, and this drain's canceled. Now Kylo's going to have to move back to Luke, which means that when Lightside will have the option to initiate that battle, depending on what else they got in hand, what else they might 3PO for. He'll pay to do the drain. Doesn't really have much force left, though, to deploy anything. He could deploy the trooper. He's going to pay 2 and just throw the trooper to the docking bay. And we'll see him move Kylo over. And Rey's going to draw a card, and he 3POs a card. So, I mean, Charlie's got 17 down and 3 in hand. He's got 20 force left total. Justin's got 15, so 20 to 15. Darkside's still hanging on here. They're making Lightside pay for everything still. Probably for the rest of the game. I don't imagine this particular TIG deck doesn't really look like it runs any ships at all, which is what sometimes you see. Gonna Jedi Lev Hera. It's probably one of the only characters that's not on the table that he could get. Here comes Obi. I'm sure we'll see Hera go down there too, because she'll be with 2 rebels, and he'll probably just pass. Draws a card with Rey, and then just passes. There's no point in battle, and he doesn't have enough destiny left. No, he's gonna battle. I was gonna say, he doesn't have enough destiny left to swing and draw battle destiny, but then again, if he knows what his 2 destiny draws are, adding the second destiny with Hera, it's enough to clear both guys. so that might be probably fine. Um, you're looking at Kylo here with a guy. I mean, he can take a swing and he can hit somebody, but no sniper or anything like that to take a guy out of battle. So that's not really going to change the board state or the situation much. Kylo's going to swing at Hera. She'll be hit. That'll cause at least cause a force loss from the lightsaber. But no way to get her out of the battle. So still get the second destiny draw. It's probably 5-6. Oh. I would figure with 3PO you would have set some stuff up better, but I guess you just didn't have any cards in hand to work with. 3-5. To be honest, you really just needed the 5. But 8 is better. 8 gets both. Just a 5 would have gotten rid of Kylo. He could Spectre to take Kylo back into hand and then redeploy him and kind of loop that around. So definitely getting 8 was good enough. If Darkseid had had a dark time, could have subtracted 1 and then only lose Kylo. But yeah, so light side will lose the battle. Kylo's gonna die. Trooper's gonna die. Obi's gonna die. He's gonna Spectre and take Kylo back into hand. Now we know he's got the 5 on top. I'm surprised he didn't play that command during the draw step to put 1 more force back, so we'd have 9 to work with this turn. I was looking at it there, highlighted in his hand, and the fact that Charlie doesn't have an open grabber, I figured he would have just played it then. Would have given him 1 more force to use. So then he could have paid 3 to drain and then paid 5 and deployed Kylo. He's going to play Spectre again. It's going to get canceled out of commission. Okay. He will not pay to drain. We'll probably see Kylo go to the 1 empty site. Oh, he's going back to Luke. When we're sitting here, let's just pause for a second. We're doing a count, 15, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's at 15, 17 to 13. Got a trooper in hand to cancel the drain. There's only so much times that he can afford to keep paying to drain. 2, 2, 1. He's paying 9 force a turn, while you're doing 4 damage for free. Possibly could have seen you make an argument if he had put the command back last turn. He'd have had 9 force face down to work with this turn. Could have activated all of it, paid the 9, paid 3 to drain, paid 5, and put Kylo here. And then, light side's activating. They would have lost 2 from the drain. We'll assume they don't lose the cards from hand. So they've got 13 left down. If they activate and they want to pay to drain in all 3 spots, they're spending 9 force to do 3 damage. Not a great trade-off. And you're going to be able to, because you're going to cancel 1 of the drains with this other trooper in hand. And then they've got to try it. They've got 4 force left. They can't deploy anything. So they're going to move 1 or 2 guys to you, and then you get another drain of 2 in for free, and then you can move away from them. You can drop this FN guy somewhere. You can drop Thrawn as backup. But I mean, we're gonna. Instead, he's going to go down. Kylo's more power than Luke, um, because of the cards stacked on I will finish what you've started. And I guess if he knows what his battle destiny is, because it's a card he put back last turn or drew last turn, so he's going to be good enough to clear. I'm sure it's a 5. It's going to be good enough to clear Luke and win the battle. Force him to stack 2 cards. Yeah. So Luke's going to die, and he's going to get a 2 force loss out of it anyway for making him stack cards. And he gets lucky here, because the 1 means Kylo gets to live. Looking at Charlie's deck is a lot of high destiny interrupts. That's a pretty unlucky pull there with the Obi for destiny. And the fact that he doesn't have the Jedi Lev and that he already burned his solo on the control tunnel vision. It's a little bit of a risk that he happened to get lucky on him, and it paid off. I don't know if he could have won a damage race, just a straight up race situation there. But this is certainly going to be interesting here. He's not going to outpower him necessarily. And I don't think he can hit him, because he can just cancel the swing. So he's going to try and draw Destiny and just beat his 4 immunity. So there's a 5. That'll guarantee that Kylo dies. But he's going to draw the same 5 again, which means he now wins the battle. 13-12, causes 2 more force loss from Kylo before he dies. Doesn't have to stack a card. So just some subtle little things here that just happen to work out in Justin's favor that kind of dragged this game on just a little bit longer by forcing and deploying Obi and Corran Horn to that site. Didn't leave many force left to force drain. So Darkseid gets off the hook there and doesn't have to lose any cards to the drain. Should just activate it all. Yeah, there you go. Pay 3, drain for 2. We'll probably see Thrawn go down now. But he whittled them down. See, there's a Rogue One. Alright, so he did have an A ship, but certainly not going to do anything much against Finalizer and Hux there. He can throw Thrawn down to the empty site, satisfy battle plan for a turn or 2. Move the shuttle over. Probably see the shuttle land next turn. Light side can activate it all. They can pay 6 to get a drain in. It's going to get canceled. Pay 3 to get a drain, cancel the trooper, pay 3 to get another drain. So this is where the Kylo living that turn really made such a huge difference. Because without that, Darkseid would not have been able to do some damage without paying. Lightside would have had a couple more cards left that they would be able to pay and move around. By Kylo living, they got a free drain in. Or they forced Lightside rather to avoid draining and, send Obi to battle Kylo and use all their force instead of causing Darkseid to lose a couple more cards. Then we'll see Leia and then move over in front of Thrawn. It won't matter too much here. We'll get the drain at 2 in. And he's just going to get him down to just that magic number. He's got the guy on strategic reserves. He can deploy him off of there. He can move Thrawn over. And again, he's just trying to just bide time and just squeeze out any little piece of damage he can. Probably does not have any characters left at this point. Trooper Assault's a great pickup. That'll guarantee. I mean, the trooper was probably going to live anyway. It was doubtful that Anakin's going to draw a 6 at best and add 1 to it and clear Thrawn. But the trooper would live. Krennic was still floating around, so we had 1 character left, but no troopers for strategic reserves. So we'll get the drain at 2 in. He'll projective that and make him pay 2 more, which is almost as good as canceling with the trooper. He's going to spend the 2 extra force to get the damage through, but that means he can't move really anybody else. I mean, Anakin battles for free, so he can move 1 guy back over. And the trooper assault here means that he may not win the battle. Adding the 2 to power now puts Darkseid ahead by 1 instead of being down by 1. So not having to stack a card is certainly going to make a difference here. Really long game here, 10 turns, really close nail biter here. But you saw the way that Map got that early pressure on. Darkseid battled them off, Lightside came and battled them off a lot of the ground sites and things like that. But strategic reserves, canceling a few drains, and Lightside not being able to satisfy battle plan, having to spend force to not lose, have a result, definitely sucks. Lightside draws well enough to get the card stack. We'll see Thrawn go to cover, but this FN guy is going to live, which means now Lightside has to move 1 of these guys over in front of him and kind of trap him with its last force. There's not a whole lot left in either player's deck. Darkside's got 4 down, 2 in hand for 6. Lightside's got 7, but as long as they can keep a guy on the ground and drain for free, they're going to pull this game out. You'll see Krennic go down here. You might see him land the shuttle. You might just move this guy back over. Yeah, I'll move the guy back over. No, he landed the shuttle. Oh, the shuttle lands for free. Oh, guy gets out. And he'll spend that last force and move that dude back over. So now he's got a pretty tough foothold here. Good forfeit. Not a lot of power, but good forfeit. Leia would get to retrieve 2, and there is no retrieval shield out. So that could certainly have an impact on some things. Charlie activated that last force. Maybe he didn't realize that Secret Plans wasn't out, because what I'm looking at right here, he activates 4. Now, I was thinking he could activate 4, pay 3 to drain for 2, get the damage through. That would peel 2 more cards off his deck, cut him down to 2. Leia could initiate battle with that last force. He would retrieve 2. Which would take him back up to 7. The battle happens, guys get forfeited, there's no overflow. And then it's 7 to 3. Darkseid would have a guy left there. They would be able to drain 2 and 1, taking it down to 4 for Lightside, 3 for Darkseid. That 4 for Lightside would be enough that they could pay to drain 1 more time and then pay 1 to move Qui-Gon over in front of them. But unfortunately, after that, this drain at 2 would kick in and they wouldn't be able to do enough. So I guess we're going to see him just do the drain, then probably move Qui-Gon back over. He just doesn't have a way to get 1 more card back. He's going to battle with Leia anyway, even though she doesn't get a Destiny, and retrieve the 2 force. Even if he draws a 5, it's 12 to 4. Leia covers 8. All right. He draws the 5. It's 12 to 4. Leia covers 8. Then he can move Qui-Gon back over with that last force. But I think he still comes up just short of being able to drain. And now that Leia's off the table, the objective will flip one more time. That'll let him play any interrupts he wants off of here. I don't think there's really anything. Actually, going to do it with Kylo's on the table. So there's really nothing else here that's going to go. It'll prevent light side from retrieving any more force. But I think it's just going to be a little too late here. Just that one card. He's going to come up one. Charlie's going to come up one card short of being able to pay to drain twice. He's down to 5. We'll get a battle here. FN will cancel Qui-Gon's text, so he can't swing. They'll both draw Destiny. Darkside will probably win the battle, not have to stack a card. They'll forfeit the FN guy and possibly the other trooper or the shuttle. You know, Charlie's got nothing left in hand. They draw. He did have a 6 left, so they tie. So nobody wins the battle. So he'll lose the FN and the shuttle. But Qui-Gon's going to go. It keeps him on this battleground, so he doesn't have to pay to draw or pay to drain. You know, now we're at 5 to 3. Light side can pay to drain one more time, taking him down to 1. So then it's 5 to 1. But then he'll get drained for 3, leaving him with only 2 force left, not enough to pay to drain the final time. And that's going to end up doing it. So very close game. We had an early beatdown on the map player, which definitely put him in a hole and did set him back. He tried to counter beat earlier, a little bit later in the game rather, on Luke. That got Hujixed, so he didn't get the additional battle damage in there. But he was able to sort of just, keep that consistent pressure on by having this space drain with just this ship. It was with the shuttle for a while, but keeping just that consistent pressure on, not having to pay to drain the whole game, while the light side player did have to pay to drain, is what ended up making the difference. One more card stacked on a field of conflict, a couple of battles that they tied, or that he won just by 1 by having the trooper assault. And this game could have come out a little differently. Drawing Obi was pretty much the game breaker for the Battle Destiny there. But that's going to wrap that up. So you've seen a little bit more about what map does, what some of its, what its strategy is, what some of its weaknesses are. If you come at it with several characters with key interrupts, a lot of other decks will go after it in space because they know that there's only a couple of ships the deck runs. You've got the shuttle, the finalizer, the alert version runs Thrawn and the Chimera, and then a commander too to really try and limit. The system also helps limit, unless you're a resistance character or a resistance starship here, you may draw no more than 1 Battle Destiny here. All wings spin, of course, gets around that to get you the second draw. But you'll see that's what, typically when you see map go against like Watch Your Step, that's how they're going to do it. Dash, Outrider, somebody else, reduce some power, and they're just going to keep pounding at the system to get rid of this ship. And then, these guys on the ground you can move away from. But great game here played by both players. 1 or 2, tiny little breaks. They played this game again. It probably could go either way the second time as well. These are always the games that you love being in, but you hate when you're the one losing by 1 card, not the guy winning by 1 card. So thanks to both Justin for sharing it and to Charlie on playing a great game. We're going to take a quick peek at another game here. Don't want to run on too much longer. This is already like almost an hour. Just on that one game, that went like 12 turns. So we're going to take a quick peek here. This was a game that our friend Sean Dixon submitted. Happens to be against me. We played this game earlier. I think this was my this was the OCS game. This was game 11 for me in the OCS May tournament this month. Sean's playing Old Allies. I'm playing TTO. One of the first things I saw, yeah, he pulled Akbar pretty quick, and then I know a little bit later, or he's going to grab launch in the assault and home one, and I was just like, okay, well he's got some capitals, um, to back up the Falcon and try and really take space with. Um, I know my version of TTO, I run the Death Star 2 Super Laser. Some people don't play it, they play Meanda and the cannons and that kind of stuff. I'm okay fighting starfighters. I always feel like Darkseid has some of the better ships. Um, you got Baron, you got Bosk, you got Vader, Maul, Fett, a couple other guys you could play. The Black 2 or to prevent the spinning or some stuff like that. Zuckuss, Dengar and Punishing One to cancel immunity to attrition. There's all different options and things that you could play as a Darkseid space package. Of course, Meanda is pretty popular to keep people from moving into the trench. You'll see that a lot. But I play the Super Laser, so when I'm seeing him pull home one, Akbar and stuff like that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm cool with that. I'm going to shoot those things down. You might find Theranet, but that's what Set for Stun is made for. So I do the usual setup here. Get Endor Shield out, throw Ozzel in the bunker with Gerard. People will go two ways bad. If they have a ship in their hand, you'll usually see the Moff and the guy in the ship go to the Death Star 2, where it's less vulnerable. It's less likely they're going to play like a spy ship. I didn't have a ship in my hand, or if I did, I didn't want to match. I didn't want to waste who it matches for. So I went to the bunker. There's also, this deck doesn't typically play a lot of spies, and he was only activating 7, so I wasn't overly scared of like Jin and somebody, and then he's got a blind draw greater than a 4 to make me lose them off. I also think I knew that my sector might have been in there. I think I might have drawn my second sector, or I might have had yeah, I think I just took the third sector because I think I drew the second one. That was lucky. He takes off right away. I miss my pull of that thing's operational, but I have a force push in my hand, so I just grab that. I really get my Death Star 2 up and running and ready to go. I also confirmed which pilots were in there that I could match for, because I did have a ship there. Fett was in there. I like Boba Fett. He's good. So we go Fett and Slave 1 to the docking bay. He had no force save, so he wasn't afraid of the barrier and then being stuck there. We'll shuffle the guys around, move them, get them in, take off. So now we're both threatening drains of 2 at systems. But I'm also going to get my Death Star 2 rolling, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get to Jakku, right where it needs to be. Kids, if you're paying attention at home, Admiral Ozzel is piloting. Moff Gerard is a passenger. Gerard only adds the power of capitals, so make sure you have your guys in the right spots. I move, I draw, I get some really good cards that I'm quite happy with. What Sean's looking at here, he's looking to get set up on the ground and he's looking to flip, but looking at his hand, he doesn't really have a lot of great characters to do that with. He's either got to do something risky, or he's got to put, Profundity out with a pilot on it and then like land the Falcon. Like he could go lay at a 1 site, Profundity with Poe, but he doesn't have enough force to do all that, and then land the Falcon and then flip that way. Instead he gets launching. He uses launching to take home 1. Maybe just trying to intimidate me with the size of his Space Force keep trying to slow me down. Thinking like, all right, well, I know he got Akbar already. Now he's got home one. Like, am I really worried about what's coming? This move I do not like. I've got 10 cards in my hand, and you're going to throw Leia down by herself, especially when you need characters to help flip your objective. Hanging her out to dry, kind of like that by herself. I would have preferred to see Sean hold on to her for a little bit, draw a couple cards, leave a few forts back, maybe like 4 or 5. That way you'd have more to work with next turn, and you could do Leia to one site, Corn to one site, flip, maybe add, uh, do home one Akbar to the system, land the Falcon, consolidate everybody at the 2-2. Like, give yourself options. Instead I can throw down any Bobos I want and clear Leia. I use Blizzard 4 and Piet and put Vader next door. Because if this doesn't go quite the way I want it to, she dodges or something stupid. I want to have an ability to, I want to leave myself with options. So really what I'm expecting to do is to lose Blizzard 4 here and have Piet move over, put him in Vader's ship with him, and then take off. He has a 4 to power, which I can take care of myself, which is good. It keeps him from, possibly getting any overflow if he drew low for Battle Destiny. Without that card, he probably would have taken a few overflow. Because I'm looking at 17. To his 8. It would be 7. He'd be down by 10. He'd be losing Leia and 2 cards. But just taking Leia off the table is good enough there. Keeps him from satisfying battle plan. Keeps him from being able to flip his objective as easily. And he needs to have 2 battlegrounds to control 2 in order to reduce damage anyway. So now I'm just taking out one of his best characters on the ground pretty easily. So I don't like that play of just putting Leia down by herself. Like I said, I would prefer him to wait on that a little bit. I take off. I play a Dark Time to activate an extra force so I can move my Death Star 2 to orbiting the system. I realize I'm probably in a little bit of trouble here. So I use that extra last force to move Fett over and consolidate everybody. Without that, I don't think Vader would have held up very well. 7 to 6, but I mean he can drop home 1 Akbar for 12 and battle. So we're going to consolidate everybody. But now I'm looking at a couple of Destiny. I think 3 right now. So this is going to be a pretty tough spot for Sean. Staring into 16 power, 3 Destiny. I've got Vader who can subtract 2 from one of his Destiny. Looking at his reserve deck, it's a lot of characters in there. So that's not a great spot for him to be in. With 12 force here and his hand looking the way it does. Oh yeah, by the way, I've got a super laser to shoot his capitals. He can get Profundity out for 4. And you could put Poe on it for 3. That would be 7. That would give him 3 Battle Destiny. So he'd have 3. I'd be drawing 3. And we can kind of just see where that goes. But I think all it's really going to do for him, I mean, looking at his Destiny, we'll assume even if he drew fairly well, Vader subtracts 2. I don't need Jar Jar out anymore, so that's 6 free forfeit. And I don't really need Piet piloting with Vader, so that's 6 more forfeit. So battling me in space right there right this turn, not going to go too well. In order for him to flip, he's got to control the system and occupy 2 battleground sites, or vice versa. So he can occupy the system and control 2 sites. He's got enough guys in his hand, Padme, Corrin. He could go ground. and then that would let him flip. And then when he's flipped, if you control 2 battlegrounds and about to lose force, you can reduce that to 1. So he can reduce the TTO damage to 1. He could go Corrin here, Padme to one site, land the Falcon, flip, land the Falcon at the other site and convert it into a vehicle. And then he's got 3 Jakku battleground sites. He could reduce the damage that way. He doesn't have to occupy the system. He just has to occupy 2 battlegrounds. So it'd be tough for me with 6 cards in my hand to contest him on 2 different ground spots. So that might make the most sense. And then, next turn, we can see him come back with home 1 Akbar, maybe move back up, or just go home 1 Akbar over here, away from the Death Star, just get around battle plan. Instead, we're going to see him go Profundity Hashin. Hashin adds 1 to the armor and prevents lateral damage, which is certainly good. But this is only armor 8, and I get 3 destiny. And then he kind of hangs that thing out to dry. I would not... Yeah, I mean, he landed, kind of like we were talking about earlier, and moves, flips the ship and things like that. I guess his plan was to move away, because Hashin also adds 1 to hyperspeed, so it is hyperspeed 4. So I guess he was planning on moving away to Endor. Okay, that's a decent idea. Unlucky in that I have a Gravity Shadow. It's not always played. You've seen this more in the Euro versions of the deck, of the TTO decks. A lot of the American versions don't run Gravity Shadow. I'm a big fan of it. For this exact situation, a lot of low ability pilots in a lot of light side decks these days. Guys like Poe and Solo and Akbar, with a lot of red cards in a deck like TTO, you can pretty much make sure that ship's not moving anywhere. And now I've got it right where I want it. He shuttles Padme up to give himself more forfeit. I don't think forfeit is necessarily a concern. But he doesn't have a Hujix or anything, so... Although with the 1 force he used to shuttle Padme up, he could have used the Antilles maneuver and had 2 force and gotten another pilot. And if that pilot was Theron Net, it might have kept me from shooting down Profundity. I don't remember seeing Theron in Sean's deck. I don't know if he had it or not. But that would have been an option too. Instead of shuttling her up, use 2 force, play the Antilles maneuver. I'll get through my Destiny draws here. Old Allies versus TTO, it is a game that TTO can, has a lot of space and can really come after the system strong. Can't usually do a whole lot on the ground. They can pick their moments where they need to. Light side, the speeder versions and things have a little bit more of an ability to hang in on the ground and get some drain set up. I don't see... he had a speeder. I think it's just Rogue One and maybe Dash. Not quite as heavy as the original versions of the deck that were running Rogue One and Rogue 3 and Wedge to cancel Destinies with the guys and do that whole setup. I draw pretty well. I hit the ship. And I draw 3 Battle Destiny, 1 from the Sector, 1 from Fett, 1 from Ability. Pile on 10 more battle damage. There is Wedge. Okay, so Wedge did get drawn for Destiny. I lose Gergerod, who I didn't need anymore, who's not adding any power. And he's got to lose all the guys and the ship. Shuttling Padme up did cancel Vader's game text, so the shuttle was not immune to attrition, and I wasn't able to subtract 2 from his Destiny draw. But now he doesn't occupy 2 battlegrounds, and I've just flipped him back. I don't know that shuttling Padme up worked out as well as the other option of using the Antilles maneuver to get another pilot up there. Would have added 2 more power. Would have probably had about the same forfeit power ratio. Um, if it was Theranet, it would have stopped me from shooting the ship. Maybe I don't draw as high. I mean, I still shoot the ship, make you lose the force. Um, but I don't know. Theron wasn't in there, so I don't know if he's still in the reserve deck. We'll get the Home 1 War Room out. But Home 1 is still fairly easy to shoot. It's only armor 8. At this point, you always want to just put Home 1 to Endor. Just deploy Home 1 to Endor and move Akbar up. Move the Falcon over to the 2-2 site. Instead, he's going to add Poe to the Falcon. Ray gets out. Doesn't really change the narrative there. It's still just 2 Destiny for light side. And now he's flipped again, but now he's just moved into, the same storm. So I'm not really sure what this was supposed to accomplish for Sean. I was supposed to flip his objective, which is what he's focused on. He's focused on flipping the objective. But he doesn't have 2 battlegrounds, so he doesn't get the benefit of their damage reduction. And he's hung his Falcon out to dry here. He forgot to, we revert here. I let him go back to his move phase because he forgot to, when he took Ray out of the ship, to move Poe into the pilot seat. And, it's a minor little technicality there, but it makes a huge, huge impact on the game. It's 3 less power. That's 1 less battle destiny. Basically, I would have completely obliterated the Falcon in this situation, possibly made him lose some overflow and things like that. And it's just one of those weird little system things. In a real life game, you just say, who's piloting? And they'd be like, oh yeah, they're both piloting. And I'm like, okay, great. But with GEMP, you have to be a little more technical with those things. So I let him revert all the way back to his move phase, and then he's got to remove his guys and redraw the cards and do all that stuff all over again. Ain't I sweet? I just want to play the game the right way, man. I want the right guy to win. I don't want to win a game because my opponent forgot to click the button to put the guy from the passenger to the pilot seat. I mean, that's just stupid. I'm going to take advantage of Black Sun Fleet here, though. I've got a couple pilots in my deck. I verified with this to see what I could match for, and I could match for Bosk and Houndstooth because that was in there. I drew it for War Weapon Destiny last turn. So I used Black Sun Fleet, which, if you don't know, during your control phase, anyone for independent starships may make a regular move. So I make my regular move, and I land my independent starship. This does 2 things. 3 things, rather. 1, it lets me drain for 2 here on the ground, and it gets me around battle order, which is step 2, so I don't have to pay for that drain. And then item number 3, it adds 1 additional force loss from TTO because it's X equals 2 plus the number of related battleground sites you occupy. So now I occupy 1 extra site, so now I'm doing 3 damage instead of 2. So I land the ship, I don't have to pay to drain, and I get 1 extra ping, so it's basically 3 free damage. I like Black Sun Fleet. Some people don't play it. I guess they don't see the benefit of it or think they've got enough independent starships to make it worth it. I love the damn card in this particular thing. Doing things like that with Slave 1, moving Zuckuss, moving Bosk, into battles. Huge. He runs away to Endor, and it's like, okay, great. During my control phase, I make a regular move and move Slave 1 over in front of him. And then I deploy Bosk behind it, and now it's 3 Destiny again. Oh, Bosk got barriered. Alas, poor Bosk, you will not be participating in this battle. But it's okay, because I got Baron and Saber 1 in my hand, too. Because this deck is just full of ships and matching guys. We shall double our efforts. That's going to increase the damage by 1. Makes it a little harder also to blow up the Death Star. Then we're going to grab our second free grabber, which also retrieves a starship. And the big Mamma Jamma, the lateral damage. Poor Bosk is excluded. He does have Finn. Finn's going to soak up 6 more forfeit, which is going to do just enough to make him not have to lose the ship. I add my third destiny. I draw pretty decently, but he's got 13, 18 in forfeit. He subtracts with that to keep that low. He's trying to stay under 18. So I've got 9. That gets me to 22. So now he's just hoping to draw enough to stay at 18 and only have to lose all the pilots. He draws an SB. I do something stupid here. Hey kids, here's a fun tip. When you're using Vader to subtract from people's destiny draws, don't subtract from characters, because then they just play Jedi Lev. Take the destiny draw into hand, and then you just wasted your Vader. He draws another 2. I could have let him have the first 2, subtracted this one to 0. Then he only would have had 2 total for Battle Destiny, not 4. He'd be losing 21 instead of 19. But, I don't know. I guess I got a little overconfident, thinking like, I got this battle won. I'm going to clear all these guys out of here. And I just used Vader on the first one. It's a dumb move. Don't be like me. Be better than me. I'm going to take this opportunity, get my pilots out, hold down my battleground site. He's only got a handful of cards. The ship still forfeits. Even if he hits a guy, the ship still forfeits pretty well. Like if he hit Fett, and like I'm not afraid of him like making him lost, because these decks typically don't have a lot of guys. Like Chewie's the guy with the weapon. Really, he's really the only one that they ever play. You know, Fett's armor 5. Maybe he gets them. Maybe he doesn't. I forget. I'm letting Sean take back here. I think he might have just activated something differently. He still uses the objective. Still draws the card with Rey. I think he's going to try and flip again. He sends home 1 over there. Moves Corrin, flips. So this is kind of what I wanted to see him do like 2 turns earlier. I can land the Falcon now at the other site. Flip that. Cancels lateral damage because it's no longer a starship. So it's not a valid target. Then Akbar moves up into the pilot seat. Gonna get some decent damage in. He's gonna mitigate the loss to 1. Yeah, I don't know why I grabbed their tracking us there either. That was a mistake on my part. I think I'm just trying to take one more card away from him. He forgets to pull the aim high shield. I firepower and retrieve one. And then he remembers. Well, he pulls weapons display in case I do the same thing. The TTO damage will get reduced this turn to 1, but it's still going to be drains of 2 and 2, so it's 5 total. He uses It Could Be Worse to get rid of, to prevent 2 more force loss. It's a good play by him. Way to hold that till a little later in the. I mean, he just drew it this turn, but it's always a card you kind of want to hold on till a little later in the game to use and try and make them use their grabbers on stuff first, which I foolishly did. And I get the other drain over there. Take a peek at the objective. Not really too thrilled with what I see in there, Destiny-wise, but I do have Maul in my hand, and Darth Maul is really good. Because he requires them to have characters of ability greater than 4. And Rey's already down, Corran Horn's already down, Padme's dead, Leia's dead. Who else they got? Maybe Lor Santika? Not too worried about those guys there. Here's a little mistake by Sean. He forgets how leadership works. He thinks he's using leadership here to add a second Destiny, but Lando doesn't draw one by himself. Or Lando draws if unable to otherwise, so he still only gets the 1. So that was a little bit of a waste of a leadership. Minor mistake. I draw low, but it doesn't really matter because Lando doesn't make this Falcon immune to any attrition. Only Finn and Rey do. So I'm going to do just enough to get rid of Lando. I subtract 1 just because I can. Just because I don't want to lose Sidious. I want to make him. I'm going to peel a couple cards to overflow. I'm trying to keep the damage as low as possible. So he's going to lose Lando. I'm going to lose 4 cards. I think I just top deck some of these low Destiny characters in there. Yeah. Dooku set for stun, Tarkin, get rid of all them low Destiny cards. I move Bosco over just in case. Just in case he's got somebody left up his sleeve or a second copy of somebody that he can slap down on home 1. But now I've put him into a position where he's got to pay to drain at these 2 sites if he wants to. And I'm ahead on card counts anyway. And then next turn I'm threatening a whole lot of damage to him. Can't really get rid of Sidious. Can't really get rid of these guys. Can't battle me in space because he's just about out of ships. So this is just going to be a big lean at this point. I'm looking at 2, 4, 6, 8. Even if he reduces the TTO damage to 1, it would be 9 total. And he's only got 14, 20 cards left. He can add another guy. He can add all the pilots he wants up there in space. They don't really help against Maul. And they don't let him move because I think he can only move his only hyperspeed 3. He can move the Falcon over, pick up Corran Horn. But there isn't a whole, it can cancel some Destiny and stuff like that, but then it's got to sit there for a turn. He's got to peel a whole bunch of cards. Sean goes ahead and concedes here. Excuse me. Yeah, he just got himself into a situation. He saved home 1 Akbar, maybe a little bit too long in the game. Ran into the Tatooine Maul, who obviously is a pain in the ass for some of these scrub decks in space, because they have very limited ability for characters, and his guys were already kind of deployed on the ground. TTO did just enough on the ground to mitigate a few things here and there, while it did what it really wanted to do, which was battle in space and secure the key system that it needs to do the force damage. And then I just leaned on him there. Things Sean could have done a little differently. I know we talked about a few things in the game. Um, the turn with the Falcon early and moving and flipping, and then the turn, with Leia, leaving her kind of high and dry a little bit by herself. It was a calculated risk, probably not one I would take that early in the game, where you never know exactly what kind of. I mean, even if I just had like Vader or somebody, could have matched Vader's shuttle and just deployed him. I can't deploy him to the docking bay, but if I had Vader instead of matching for the shuttle, I could have just deployed Vader and battled. I'm immune to less than 5. She's immune to less than 4. We take our chances. I mean, I think he was planning on possibly using the Yoda Stew combo to cancel the attrition so he could keep her there. But he just got outpowered by too much that it didn't really make sense. He would have to peel 6 cards to keep her alive. And then he'd still be stuck in front of Blizzard 4 and Piet. So yeah, I mean, it might have been a little more conservative holding on to her, to use her with somebody else the next turn to flip. Um, the turn he went with Profundity, just gave, with the super laser out, that just gave me a pretty good target to shoot at. I mean, it's 3 destiny to beat 8. It's certainly possible I could have missed, but TTO's got a lot of high destiny cards in it. Even the characters, some of the pilots and stuff are 1s, but once you start thinning them out, um, you're looking at a lot of high destiny interrupts, a lot of 4s and 5s and 6s, extra copies of Admiral's Orders, Dark Maneuvers, short range fighter combos, all the usual interrupts and stuff that you see floating around in there. Lateral damage, no escape, those kinds of effects. We double our efforts. These are all 5s and 6s. So some risky moves on Sean's part. Really seemed like he almost got a little tunnel visioned into focusing on, I have to flip my objective. I have to flip my objective. It's the only way I can reduce the TTO damage is to keep flipping my objective. And it may have been better for him to just cut his losses for a turn or two, kind of run away. I know he was planning on doing that, and he got gravity shadowed. Um, but it might have just been better off just, he could have gone 2 guys to the ground and then flipped, and then landed the Falcon, rather than put Profundity out and risk it getting like barriered or something, and then being unable to move away and just kind of getting, his whole plan blown up. So, thanks guys for watching. This one went a little longer than usual. Thanks to that, dozen turn game that we started with in the beginning. Thanks to both Justin and Sean for submitting the game links this week. And hope everybody watching, learned a few things. I know I always learn a few things, even watching my own performance, things that I did that were mistakes that I can improve on. And hopefully you guys pick up on a few things too. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.